okay? Go out and do likewise. He said, go out and kill. He went out and hung himself, and go out and do likewise. The Bible says you take it out of context, and you're going to get in some real trouble. We must remember that the early church, the 3,000 who were saved on the day of Pentecost, were not Gentiles, but were Jews. Until Paul and Barnabas and the other missionaries began to move out, the early church for those first few years was 100% Jewish. Now these Jews in Jerusalem who had turned to Christ find themselves at a great loss. They had been accustomed to going to the temple. They had been accustomed to having the Mosaic law read. You remember, they're kicked out of the temple. They weren't allowed in the temple anymore because that they believed in Jesus Christ. But now they are shut away from the law, and now they are shut out from the temple. Okay, there we go. They are no longer a part of the system at all. They feel very much on the outside. Well, they've been excommunicated from the temple. Therefore, I think the writer is saying to them, you come now to a mount that is different from Mount Sinai, and you do not want to go back to that. Mount Sinai was the place where the law was given, and 3,000 people were slain. See Exodus chapter 32. But 3,000 people were saved on the day of Pentecost. What a great contrast there. That would make a great sermon, wouldn't it? There was death at the giving of the law, and there was new life when the gospel was preached on the day of Pentecost. The giving of the law was by no means a delightful experience. There was thunder and lightning, earthquakes and storms, blazing fire, and the blast of a trumpet that grew louder and louder and louder. It was a terrifying experience, so much so that the people said to Moses, speak thou with us, and we will hear, but let not God speak with us, lest we die. Exodus chapter 20 and verse 19. Put him in an itty box so I don't have to deal with him. But on Sundays and Wednesdays, now the writer of the Hebrews says, you don't want to go back to that system. We have left all that behind us. Now, I was a pastor in Nashville, Tennessee. Again, that's McGee and not me. There was a lady in the church who was a very lovely person, but I always felt that she was one of those Paul spoke of when he said, silly women laden with sins, led away with diverse lusts, ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. 2 Timothy chapter 10 and chapter 3, verse 6 and 7. Sorry. She was a woman who was sort of a social hanger-on. She learned she belonged to a very wealthy family, went to her cocktail parties and engaged in their sins, but she still wanted to go to church classes. She attended my church, but never became a member, and she pretended to be quite a Bible student. She said to me one day after I had preached a sermon about the law, Dr. McGee, the giving of the law is so beautiful, isn't it? I had to say to her, dear lady, the giving of the law is not beautiful. I think it is one of the most frightening experiences in the Bible. And it was a law that these people were told would never be able to save them. God gave them a sacrificial system whereby they could bring a sacrifice. A little animal had to die because of the law wouldn't save them. The law actually condemns them. These Hebrew Christians had been accustomed to going to the temple and going through the ritual. Now there was nothing for them to go to, no ceremony, no sacrifice to bring them. So the writer tells them that they really do have something. And that concludes that